Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. JLR investigates with the breaking news. We cover the border on JLR Investigates. This is the go-to channel when you want to hear what's going on with the border migrant crisis. We've been boots on the ground all across the southern border, every single spot where migrants cross over illegally, we've been to. We also been to the northern border, covering what's going on at all corners of the United States. The migrant border crisis we've been following for many years on this channel. I want to just say that intro because I know there's probably some that are just joining JLR Investigates. But all the JLR Army and all of you that have been watching us have seen firsthand what is going on the southern border. It seems like there's going to be a change of policy. As some of you might or might not know, President-elect Donald Trump is coming in January 20th, 2025. He's nominated Tom Homan as Border Czar, Kristi Noem as Department of Homeland Security Chief, and they made it perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen, mass deportations are coming under the administration. The biggest mass deportation in U.S. history. That's what they've been saying. So we've been monitoring what's going on. What does that all mean? During the course of the last week, we've been seeing on this channel, basically some of these mayors and some of these communities across the country, what we'll call sanctuary cities, kind of defying and talking like they're not going to comply with the mass deportations and or ICE coming into their cities to deport individuals. We've been talking about that. I want to share an update, by the way, by the Denver mayor who actually spoke yesterday after we did our live yesterday morning. He's backpedaling a little bit. We'll talk about that shortly. But what we're going to talk about today is the migrant caravan. Caravan is coming. That's what we titled this video because there is a massive caravan south of the border coming up through Mexico on their way to the southern border for possibly a final push or a continuous push before January 20th, 2025. And it seems like the Mexican president is allowing this to happen. The Mexican president was told by Trump that Trump would impose a 25% tariff on all products coming across to the U.S. unless they do something about the border migrant crisis. We think that Mexico should be doing something about this. We think that Mexico should be on the border stopping people from coming to the U.S. southern border, but it doesn't seem like that's the case, and Mexico kind of has been turning a blind eye. Some places it appears that they do look like they're stopping it, like in Jacumba, California, where they got Mexican tents on the border wall. But it seems like Mexico just turns a blind eye and allows these caravans to come through the southern border. So I got some clips of the caravan. I also want to share all types of arrests lately around the country dealing with migrants doing the most egregious crimes. Have you heard about, the one migrant that was arrested in New York City for breaking into Alvin Bragg's, a prosecutor that works for Alvin Bragg's apartment and doing the unthinkable inside that apartment? Have you heard that story? Have you heard about all the people that ICE is rounding up in Boston that are charged with the most egregious crimes? When I say the egregious crimes, we're talking about SEX crimes, right? SEX crimes. It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of people that have been getting arrested all over the place in pockets. And these are migrants that were supposed to come into the United States legally. Were supposed to come in and, live the American life and live the American dream, but that's not so. Tren de Aragua, the migrant gang from Venezuela, is all over now. It is spreading like a cancer across the homeland of the United States and doing unthinkable crimes to American victims. It's happening. Arrests are starting to happen all over the place. I'm surprised ICE is actually arresting people, but kudos for them to arresting because, the consensus here is These individuals, these violent, dangerous people have to go. They have to go. They have to get out. Mass deportations. Get out. Get out. You like my hat? People are like, yeah, I like your hat. This is an old hat. I got this hat at Spirit Halloween a couple years ago when I dressed as a Border Patrol agent for Halloween. I thought it was pretty neat. So, no, I'm not impersonating a Border Patrol agent. You can get one of these hats at Spirit Halloween. You can get the little Border Patrol outfit and everything like that. It's pretty cool. I do sometimes wear this at the border, though, when I'm down there investigating and, covering from Brownsville all the way to Tijuana. We've been every single nook and cranny spot on the southern border. You know how many spots? Before I show you the caravan, you know how many spots we've been on the border, on the southern border? Literally, we've been through Brownsville, Starr County, which, by the way, the land commissioner down there is offering the Trump administration land in Starr County to build a deportation center or a detention, big giant detention facility when they do their migrant roundup. That's interesting. We'll talk about that later. But Brownsville, McAllen, Laredo, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, El Paso, and then going into New Mexico, Sunland Park, Santa Teresa, Columbus, and then going into Arizona, Cochise County, Naco, Nogales, there's more, sasabe, Lukeville, and then going into Southern California, and Jacumba area, all the way to Tijuana. We've been to every single spot. Live streaming if we can. Some places you can't live stream. Don't forget the Big Bend area of Texas, too. Big Bend, the Big Bend area, all the way up to El Paso and all there. People are coming in all over the place. But we've been to almost every single spot, probably every single spot where this, it's known that people are crossing, or the routes that the cartels guide these caravan people to. So check out the playlist if you have not checked out the playlist on this channel. We plan to go back. So let's talk about this migrant caravan. A caravan is coming, and there's lots of recent clips. These are not old clips. These are recent clips. Media has been putting out that the caravan is coming. Thousands. Will the thousands make it up to the southern border and do that final push? And I'm wondering a little bit if this is not the final push and there'll be continuous caravans that keep coming up even after January 20th, 2025. The Trump administration says they're going to secure the border, close down the border. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. How will the Trump administration, when they're in, be able to stop the caravan from coming up? I think you would need Mexico's cooperation at the very least. Let's look at this clip right here. The caravan. The caravan is coming. Recent clips. I'm not playing anything that's old. This is new information. It is out there. The caravan is coming, folks. So I'll play this one right here. Look at this caravan. Caravan is coming. This was taken within the last 24 hours. Look at the massive groups of people that are coming up. Now, sometimes the caravans get broken up. Sometimes they get splintered off. Sometimes it's by design because the cartels want to guide these individuals in at different key locations to stomp Border Patrol. Look at this. This is coming to a city, possible city near you in the United States of America. Most likely this caravan will try to cross an Eagle Pass, Del Rio. Now they got children with them. Here comes the caravan. Sometimes these caravans don't make it. A lot of times they do. A lot of times caravans get intercepted by the cartel, and then they have to pay. They have to pay the cartel in order to cross. They've been wearing wristbands lately. They've been jumping up on tankers, train tankers, working their way to the United States. Train tankers like this. This is recent, folks. Get ready. All aboard. And they hang on to the train. They work their way up to the southern border, up through Mexico. Why Mexico allows us remain, I don't know. Why do they turn a blind? Why don't they enforce their own laws? The caravan's coming, folks. It's coming. One thing I noticed about the trains here, you know, one of the hot spots that people cross in is Eagle Pass down there by Shelby Park, which is 2 industrial train tracks in that area, or 1 industrial train tracks, 2 bridges. And a lot of them get onto those carts and they work their way up through.
Yeah, Auden, I want to talk about the numbers. Roughly 1,500 here is being reported. And it can be hard to kind of ballpark the number by just looking at some of the video here. Is there the possibility that some of these individuals here don't make it, that they just stay in Mexico? And where are they coming from? It's not just Mexico, other countries, right?
Yes, the majority is Latin America. A lot of Venezuelans are still part of these caravans. And just to keep in mind, Tapachula is still receiving up to 1,000 migrants a day. And it's overcrowded in Tapachula, and these caravans also, you know, they're making it to other small towns in Chiapas. Some right now, like we said, they're trying to make it to Mexico City, to the shelters.
Now, he's a journalist, the one that was just talking. I forget his name. I don't know his names offhand, but if you recognize the face, he's actually a journalist. He does a lot of the drone footage at Eagle Pass. He actually is on the Mexican side. And he actually follows the migrants to the water and then films them and documents them as they're crossing into Eagle Pass. So he does great work. He does, you know, he films and documents these caravans and these things. He's been doing it for years, and it's coming, folks. It's coming. Just how big is it going to be? They're reporting 1,500. I'm seeing thousands. Sometimes people latch on as it goes. Sometimes it splinters off into smaller groups, and then waves of 100 come through. But it looks like it's starting up again. Now, the caravans weren't happening necessarily for probably the last 6 months. It's kind of been quiet as far as the caravan aspect. But it seems like it is picking up full speed, like a train. We're coming, or a tractor-trailer truck. They're coming to, you know, swarm the border. Now, remember, folks, this caravan, if it arrives here and arrives to the United States, or they cross in, guess what? For now, under the policies, they get to stay. They get to stay. So Border Patrol will process them. They'll run their names. And remember, folks, this is a bunch of nonsense. When Border Patrol says, oh, we do an NCIC check, and we do a check to make sure they don't have a criminal record before, you know, if they don't have a criminal record, or if they have a criminal record, we'll instantly deport them back. Well, guess what, folks? Most of these nations, these hostile nations like Venezuela, in other nations, and they get documents from other hostile nations to be able to come to the United States, they don't report with the United States. So the United States has no record whatsoever, even though they could have came from jail. They just don't cooperate with that NCIC type system that Border Patrol uses to process these people. So therefore, they can be anybody they want, and they can, you know, anyone is coming in. So it's hogwash when Border Patrol says on the record for the last couple of years, well, you know, if they're criminals, we won't let them in. We're only letting the non-criminals in. Well, everyone's technically a non-criminal if they're coming from a from a hostile nation that does not cooperate with the NCIC computer system type. So they're coming across. Border Patrol processes them. Boom, they get released with a court date all the way from 2029 all the way to 2035, whatever, and then they go to a city near you. Then they go to a city near you. But here's when I want to show you something. I was talking about yesterday about when we were live, I was talking about El Paso. El Paso got a uniquely interesting type of area right there on the border with Mexico. And I want to show this picture here because this picture paints. Oh, my mic. I was told my mic. Oh, I was told my mic went out. I was told my mic went out. Now we got to start over. Yeah, I knew I pressed something. Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. All right, so let's retrack a minute. This is the United States-Mexico border. This is El Paso. This side is El Paso. On the other side of that wall there is El Paso. This is the Mexico side. This is the Mexico side. This is the Rio Grande River. Now there's concrete. There's concrete. Concrete there. What's interesting about this spot, and I want to share why this spot is very interesting, because this is a spot where thousands, if not millions, crossed over the United States illegally in El Paso. What's so interesting is the border wall is actually set up farther from the Rio Grande. This Rio Grande, anyone can walk across. This is the side of Mexico. By law right now, or by policy, we'll say policy, not by law. By policy, the only thing these people have to do is cross over and cross over to the other side. As soon as they step foot there on the American side, Border Patrol has to legally round them up and they can legally stay. So what Texas did was they were getting sick of it. So Texas themselves, they built this wire. They built their own wire to try to prevent and thwart the people from coming across. But they still managed to get in. Or if Border Patrol gets a hold of them before Texas National Guard, they stay. Now, National Guard for the last year since Shelby Park has been trying to deter people and tell them to go back. But this is it. They should have built this wall right here. They should have built the wall right there along the thing to give no one an opportunity, because all they have to do right here is step across that water, and as soon as they plant their feet here, which is a large area between here and the wall, they can stay. Border Patrol rounds them up, takes them up to the wall, and then there's numerous spots along the wall every quarter mile where there's an opening, and they march them through, process them, and they get to stay. Nobody talks about this. This should be talked about more. This should be exposed more about this loophole and this vulnerability right here in El Paso. All you have to do is walk, and you literally, it's knee deep. It's I don't know how fast it moves the water. That's the Rio Grande. It's very narrow, and it's in a concrete. There's concrete. It's like in a concrete. It's concrete there. Concrete on both sides. And the Rio Grande. That's it. That's the border. But by law, or not by law, by policy, I keep saying by law, by policy, the policy's in place, all they got to do is touch that side, and the Border Patrol, if they get a hold of them before National Guard, they get to stay. That's what's so crazy about this. You know, it's a little different in Eagle Pass. In Eagle Pass, you got to cross the Rio Grande River, which is more treacherous, because that's a spot. When you see these caravans, I want to show you something. When you let me just go put in Eagle Pass in Google Maps here. When you put in Eagle Pass in Google Maps, I just want to show you the map in general, because when these caravans come up, there's certain locations that they try to bust through into the United States. Eagle Pass is one of them. Del Rio, Brownsville in Texas. And for a long, long time, for the last 4 years, since January 20th, 2021, when the last administration got inaugurated, the people, the migrants, would, trek through Mexico. A lot of them are coming from South America. A lot of them are coming from around the world. They get flown. They cross the Darien Gap. Then they work, and this is the map of the United States. We're talking about the southern border here. This is Eagle Pass, by the way. So, they go through the Darien Gap. Then they start making their way up in Mexico. They stay in safe houses and shelters in Mexico. and then they work their way up. They work their way up, and they come in usually in 3 different locations. They make that breakthrough. Brownsville, Texas, they come up through here, and they'll come to Brownsville, Texas, come up through here. Sometimes Laredo, not necessarily much Laredo. Eagle Pass. Reason by Eagle Pass is a safe passage for these caravans to work their way through without getting intercepted by the cartel, bribed, extorted, threatened, and or El Paso up here. So they come in like boom, boom. Man, this keeps going on there. Boom, boom, and boom. These particular areas, these 3 areas. I mean, Texas is doing their best. As you know, Texas is putting up the wire. National Guard has set up a place in Shelby Park. But that's the thing. But now these caravans are also extending and going towards Arizona and California because they know that Texas is not playing ball anymore, and Texas is not playing anymore. The whole Texas southern border, the goal is to put wire up, I guess, even in the whole entire area of the southern border of, Texas, the entire Texas border. But a lot of them will come up here to Santa Teresa, Sunland Park, right across the New Mexico border. They'll come up. But those are the locations. Those are the locations. Eagle Pass right here. They come up through Eagle Pass, and they take the main highway through. Plus, there's a rail line that takes you to Eagle Pass. Not necessarily Laredo, Brownsville down here. Del Rio, sometimes Del Rio. Del Rio was hot and rocking and rolling at one point. El Paso seems like the Venezuelan, mostly the people that from Venezuela that go through the caravans and cross up illegally, work their way up to El Paso. But right on the other side of El Paso, right here, is Sunland Park, Santa Teresa, New Mexico. They would also come up there to avoid what's going on there. But I just showed you a picture of El Paso. It's so easy to cross. It's literally so easy to cross. So that's what I'm talking about here when I talk about this. When I talk about this right here, all they have to do is come up here and just basically walk right across, and boom, you're on you. This is U.S. soil. So the wall is farther back, but this is U.S. soil. So according to the Biden administration, touch your foot here, Border Patrol can't tell you to go back. You get to stay. So I mean, this is bad. They should have put this wall closer, much closer, but they didn't. So it is what it is. Will the situation get fixed? I hope it does, because we got problems, Houston. We got big problems. Caravans will continue to exploit the process and come up through the United States illegally through that method and way. Caravans, folks. Now, that journalist that spoke before, he actually spoke to Fox about 6 or 7 minutes with the caravan, the update on the caravan. See, I'm paying attention to the caravan. I'm paying attention to see what happens before January 2025. Something told me at one point, my mind was thinking maybe last week, well, maybe it's over. Maybe the people that are trying to cross is over, but it looks like it's business as usual, and it looks like a large surge is starting to occur again. This is concerning. This is very, very concerning, because the people here are going to be in a community near you. Let's listen to this report.
And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. We're switching gears to turn our attention to the southern border here. Take a look at some of this video. Well, this is what we know. There's been a lot of talk surrounding President-elect Trump's mass deportation plans. And now a new group of 1,500 people is headed to the southern U.S. border, reportedly trying to get there before Trump's second term begins. So for more on this new caravan, we're going to be joined by Auden Cabello. He's an independent journalist who covers the border and immigration, and he joins me. Auden, thanks for being with us here. I know you cover this very, very closely. I wanted to ask, though, where is this group now on their journey?
Yeah, so this is the sixth caravan that has left since Claudia Sheinbaum became president of Mexico. 5 have left Tapachula and 1 left Tuxtla Gutierrez, all in the state of Chiapas. This particular one left this morning out of Tapachula, and their goal is to reach central Mexico, more specifically Mexico City, which is a sanctuary city. And just north of there, that's where they hop on the freight train, La Bestia, And that's how they make it to border towns like Piedras Negras and cross to Eagle Pass, something we saw in all of 2023 when we saw those mass groups crossing there. They were all arriving on train to Piedras Negras by the hundreds and occasionally by the thousands. And talking to some of these migrants in these caravans, now that they've realized that President Trump is coming into office, it's having the effect that was somewhat unexpected. They're not going to go back to their country of origin. They feel the pressure of making it to the U.S. border and into the U.S. Before Inauguration Day, hoping that they can still make it under the Biden administration and be accepted into the country.
Okay, but with that logic, though, President-elect Donald Trump has said that every person here, illegally and undocumented, will be deported by however way or means there. That's words from President-elect Trump. So, based on that logic, why are they still coming? Why are these people still forming these caravans, trying to get to the United States with those designs, with those plans being put in place here? Stephen Miller, who's going to be a key policy advisor in the next Trump term, said on Fox News a couple of days ago that this is priority number one on day one. So why?
Yeah, so I've been to Tapachula and I've spoken to a lot of these migrants and gotten to know their thinking, their thought process. And Tapachula is ground zero for the migrants. And there's a differentiation that needs to be made there in Tapachula with the migrants. There's some that once you know where they're coming from and their economic status, you know where they're going to cross and how they're going to cross. So, for example, those with the resources will pay the organized crime. And most of them were crossing, they were flying into border towns like Mexicali, Monterrey, and they would cross in different border towns. The ones we're seeing in caravans, they're the poorest of the poor. They've sold whatever they had back in their country of origin. They don't have anything. And that's why they're going from shelter to shelter, NGO to NGO. And at this point, they sold everything. And their thinking is, I have no other goal in life right now than to make it into the U.S. and give it a shot. And if I get deported, well, then it's going to be on their dime, meaning the U.S. Taxpayer is going to pay for it, and they don't have to go back.
Think about
resources. That's their logic. That's their thinking. And right now, they're running out of time, and that's why they're going to make a mad rush to the border. Something that I've been reporting.
Yeah, Auden, I want to talk about the numbers. Roughly 1,500 here is being reported. And it can be hard to kind of ballpark the number by just looking at some of the video here. Is there the possibility that some of these individuals here don't make it, that they just stay in Mexico? And where are they coming from? It's not just Mexico, other countries, right?
Yes, the majority is Latin America. A lot of Venezuelans are still part of these caravans. And just to keep in mind, Tapachula is still receiving up to 1,000 migrants a day. And it's overcrowded in Tapachula, and these caravans also, they're making it to other small towns in Chiapas. Some right now, like we said, they're trying to make it to Mexico City, to the shelters. Initially, they've been doing that all year and processing their CBP-1. But right now, it's so many of them trying to do that application that it's crashing the system. They're getting frustrated. They're getting impatient. And now that's why there's this urgent rush to get to the border.
So I wanted to talk about as well, if there is any, leadership structure to these caravans. Is there any organization, or is it kind of an amorphous blob of people? I mean, who's in charge here? I guess my question is.
NGOs.
Yeah, so in Tapachula, you have individuals like Luis Villagran. He has an NGO, an organization. He's been organizing some of these caravans, but once they leave Tapachula, he'll stay back and pretty much organize the next one. And then from there, these caravans, a natural leader will come out of there and kind of lead. And that's why they're leaving as a caravan they say it's to protect themselves from organized crime. And they're also being escorted by the National Guard, usually the Red Cross, just to provide any assistance. So they're not completely alone. There's still some guidance there that they're being led and protected.
Red Cross.
So what will their claims be? Are these quote unquote asylum seekers? Can they make a verifiable, valid asylum claim, or no? Are they just hoping their chances are good to cross illegally once they get there, and if they get there?
Yeah, so we've been seeing the reports that they're not properly being vetted, not even under CBP-1. And under the Biden administration, they've been let into the country. And that's still their belief that, their days are counted and they're limited. And that's this urgency that they can still get in.
Okay.
Whether it was under CBP-1 or crossing illegally and then claiming asylum, they were still being let into the country. So that's their thinking, and that's why they're moving north.
All right, Aden Cabello, thanks for joining us, and thanks for sharing us the video that you shot there in parts of Mexico, documenting this most recent caravan. We'll check in soon.
Yeah, he's a good journalist. He's
welcome back here
down
to
on the
Live
border.
Now
I
from
actually
Fox
looked at him
Crap.
on Twitter. He's always posting from there, so he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. I mean, it's always good to hear from the people of what's going on as far as journalists and people that are down there firsthand. Just like we give you our take, which kind of mirrors everything that he's said too. I've always learned. I can say in this business of covering the border, you always learn something new from another person that's been covering the border. Because, I think I know everything when it comes to the border, but you'd be shocked to learn new things as things evolve. For instance, just the last month, now they're requiring, if cartel gets a hold of these people, they're requiring them to put on wristbands to cross. But yeah, they come through the caravan. Usually the caravans is because, if you're, I guess, in a larger pack, a larger group of individuals, then maybe the cartel won't intercept you and bribe you and influence you. But a lot of the crossings, particularly in California and Arizona, it's different than caravans like this that are coming from Mexico City all the way up. The California individuals seem like they're paying money, like big money. But here's the thing about it is, you don't know any of who these people are. You don't know. Just because, see, the optics is just because they're carrying a baby, or you see someone carrying a baby, or you see a bunch of children and mothers, it touches people's hearts, and it gets people to think that their story, oh, you got to help, they're oppressed, you got to help with stuff like that. But that also could be a ruse and a scheme. You just don't know who's who. You just don't know, because the government just does not do any vetting whatsoever at all. And lo and behold, as we learned about the border, a lot of the children that crossed into the United States illegally with these mothers or fathers or whatever end up being just dumped behind, and 300,000 children are missing in this country right now. 300,000. Some say 400,000. You've been hearing those numbers. Homan said last week 300. I've heard 400,000. But hundreds of thousands of children go missing coming through the border. Where are they? Who are they? And why are they being brought here? So that's another question too. But the caravans is a big thing. It is coming. There is some more clips. I'm going to actually get Magnolia in the chat, and we're going to talk a little bit about the caravans and stuff. And I also want to show you the wave of recent arrests dealing with Venezuelan migrants across the country. It's quite terrifying. We've heard the details of Laken Riley's killer. We heard how he went to New York City, Roosevelt Hotel. It was government paid for his flight to go down to Georgia, which ultimately he ended up killing Laken Riley. But it's just terrifying hearing details, and it's good that trial came out, because there was new information out of that trial that we never even heard of about Mr. Ibarra's journey coming through the United States illegally and everything. But there's so many more. There's so many people now that are suddenly get arrested, and they're doing these like crazy, egregious crimes that are sick to the core. I can't even say the type of crimes, because this is a PG channel. I try to make it a PG channel. But everyone's true colors seem to come out once they come in. Where are all the feel-good stories? Where are all the good stories that have been, the media? Think about this, folks. The media, the mainstream media, wants to kind of protect the migrants and kind of, how dare you oppress people that want to come over in United States that's being, persecuted in another country. They just seek asylum and stuff like that. But where are these same media that are showing success stories from the people that have crossed in? Because I don't see much. All I'm seeing is, a bunch of media outlets putting the negative the negative. Where's the positive? Maybe there isn't any positive. Maybe there is, but why wouldn't these same medias that co-sign this put out the stories where people are making the American dream? Because you don't see it. I don't see it. Do you see it? I don't see it. Let's get Magnolia in the chat so we can talk a little bit, and I want to show you some other things. Come on in, Magnolia. Migrant Caravan is the topic of today's discussion. Every day we do a little bit of topic. Oh, by the way, the Denver mayor spoke out. We'll play that in a second. I'm going to get Magnolia's take on this. Hello, Magnolia. Come on in. Good morning.
Hello.
Migrant Caravan. What's up with this, Magnolia? We've been monitoring this for the last week or so. We've seen it, how it happens in Eagle Pass with you and I. We were there exactly this time last year. Weren't we there this time last year? Or we were there for Christmas?
Yeah, we were there. I think we got there right before Christmas, and then we're there through New Year's, right?
Yes. But remind the viewers what you seen in Eagle Pass when we were there at Christmas time. It's Thanksgiving coming up. But at Christmas time last year.
Well, when we were there, it was starting to slow down at Christmas time because all
Texas.
the policies that Greg Abbott was putting into place, things were starting to slow down. And at the time, they were a lot of the border agents were speculating it might be because the migrants or the cartels were taking off for Christmas to, have Christmas with their families and things like that. So at the time, it wasn't really clear why it was slowing down. But then, pretty much right after that is when they started bringing in the National Guard and all those other things. So Eagle Pass sort of came to a grinding halt.
Yeah, we were there. There used to be probably November. There was 5,000 a day. The Eagle Pass was getting 5,000 a day up to about December 10th ish, right? 5,000 a day up to December 10th, and then we went there. But I was there before I brought you down there with me. I was there when Elon Musk was there, and at its peak in October. And I mean, there was literally the kennels and the pens were filled between the bridges. But I want to emphasize to the viewers, and I want to share this with the viewers, is that thank you for the gifted membership, Dawn, by the way. Somebody got a gifted membership on JLR Investigators. Appreciate that. The caravans and the waves of people. Now, do you remember when you were there? I don't know if you saw it. I did. How people would get dropped, like these vans would come up to the river on the top of the hill with 30 per van or 30 per car, vehicle, SUV piled in, and they would all come out in waves and just cross.
Yep.
And come down.
Like a couple hundred at a time, it seemed like.
Yes, and they would just cross into the water across the Rio Grande. I mean, it was so surreal. And then they would just come across as soon as they land on the other side. Border Patrol would round them up. But they're coming through this caravan. They were coming through a caravan, working their way up, and something on the side of Eagle, or on the other side, the city on the other side of Eagle Pass. Somewhere there's safe houses or some sort of NGOs or people are facilitating them for their final, final push to the border.
Yeah, I mean I'd call them more like stash houses than safe houses. They basically just stash a whole bunch of them there until they can coordinate when it's their turn to cross.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. So, will this continue? Will this happen? Here's the thing about it is here's what I'm thinking, Magnolia. Even though the Trump administration says they're going to do the biggest deportation in U.S. history, the migrants know, as that journalist said, the migrants know, what do they got to lose if they try anyway? And even if they get caught coming across and you do deportation, you'll be deported on the taxpayer's dime. The United States pays for them to be deported. So what do you have to lose?
Yeah, and they said, I saw some of the migrants that are part of this caravan, they specifically are saying that they're willing to take their chance with Trump.
Yes.
So now, a lot of the people, a lot of those people will end up probably staying because it just depends if they have a valid asylum claim or not. But we've already talked about people, the asylum seekers and things like that are pretty far down on the priority list. The priority list is the gangs, the criminals, the repeat offenders, things like that. And then the bogus asylum claims are after that. So, you know, if someone has a valid asylum claim and they come in through the app, they will be staying. So a lot of those people will probably stay in the country. So it's true. Like, what do they have to lose?
Also, I have a feeling, despite, you know, the claim that, you know, there's going to be mass deportations, the border's secure, I think that these NGOs and you know, the people that support this type of you know, illegal crossings, they're going to try it anyway. And they're just going to, for optics reasons, because they maybe want to get public sympathy or what, and they're going to just allow these people to come to the border with children and women crying just to make the Trump administration look bad or inhumane in a you know, PR stunt. I think there's going to be some games being played here where the caravans will continue. I really do. Despite the border being shut down or supposed to be shut down starting January 20th, I think there's still the waves of these caravans are going to continue. If Mexico doesn't play ball.
I don't think so.
Why?
Because the whole reason that these people are coming across the way they are, unfettered access, just pouring over, is because of that app, the CBP One app. That app is going away on probably January 21st. That app's gone. So you're not going to be able to have thousands of people pouring in. It's just not going to happen. They're going to look pretty much, when they get rid of the app, anybody coming over will essentially at that point be a gotaway and subject to immediate deportation. So I don't think it's going to continue. I don't see how it can.
NGOs, Red Cross.
I don't think so. They're not going to be able to come over by the thousands anymore. That's just not realistic.
Well, I'm not saying come over. I'm saying trying to attempt to be on the other side and lined up on the wire fencing, women and children crying, National Guard standing there with guns. You know, I think they will continue to try that and do that, where, you know, people that watch certain news networks will just throw out MSNBC or other, you know, type of news networks that will play that, will try to influence the minds of Americans, saying, you got to let them in. You got to let them in. They're being oppressed. You got to let them in and try that ridiculousness. I really think it's going to continue that way.
I mean, if they also implement again the Remain in Mexico, what that means is anyone seeking asylum has to stay in Mexico until they receive a court date. Yeah. They have to do the application. They have to go through the steps. They'll be given a court date. And at that point, then they would be able to come in. But those two policies changing immediately are going to basically stop all of this. So if you don't have an appointment, you don't have an asylum date on the books, you're not registered or anything like that, if you try to come across the border, they will arrest them, and a lot of those people will be subject to immediate deportation.
Yeah, it will be interesting, Magnolia, because
they'll be met with a brick wall of resistance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The brick wall of resistance.
I'm sure that some of these propaganda outlets will circulate fake photos and different things, or post things out of context, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, they can do that if they want, but it's not really going to change anything.
See, my thinking is, okay, get rid of the CBP app, get rid of the TPS, get rid of all these apps. Is that really going to still stop the caravans?
Well, the app is the only reason they've been able to flood in the way they have.
Well, the journalist was just saying that the apps have crashed, so they're just desperate and they're just coming up in caravans. They can't use the app. They're just coming.
Yeah.
And even though they get rid of the app, why would that stop large groups of people at least trying? Like my mind's thinking they're still gonna try it. My mind is thinking that these caravans and it might be organized to at least try it to put the Trump administration and see if they mean what they say. That's what I'm trying to say. They say they're going to do deportations. They say they're going to stop, people from coming in. But what if large caravans during the Trump administration with Abbott down in Texas literally cross over the Rio Grande, which anyone can do? What's going to happen? Like, is Texas and the government going to shoot them, push them back, fight? What's literally going to happen?
They'll be put into a detention center and they'll be processed for deportation. All these detention centers that are set up around the border, a lot of those will probably be redesignated as deportation centers. And there's a private landowner in Texas who actually is offering the Trump administration a 1,400-acre ranch.
I think that's to create
a mass deportation center.
I think that was in Starr County, I believe.
It's 35 miles west of McAllen.
Yes, yeah. Starr County. They're offering this land because they said they figure that if they're going to be doing deportations, they may need space for that. But I think some of the detention centers currently may be converted to use for deportations. I mean, the thing is, there's so many people that are already on the deportation list that are already marked to be deported, and they're just not doing it because of logistics and it's a lot. And so only like a fraction of people that are marked for deportation actually are deported. So, they'll probably try to reverse that and make it go the other direction. See, my thinking is Magnolia, and I have a lot of questions. I'm trying to see how things get implemented. And the first thing that comes to my mind is after January 20th, the cost of mass deportation. How much? Now, Tom Homan has stated on the record there's no cost to national security. So, I think they were throwing out the numbers like $80 billion a year or something like that. It's going to cost a lot. I really think in order to have the detention centers, the agents, ICE, I think it might be over $100 billion a year. Some people say that's worth it. Some people say that's financially worth it, considering that the new incoming administration says that, we're not going to, because usually there's billions allocated for defense, right? Wars, defense. And I do think that the way they're saying it is that they're going to shift resources from overseas and not worry about foreign wars and the war machine all across the globe and worry about national security, so that money will be allocated to national security instead. But my question is, again, cost. How much? And if waves continue with caravans,
how much do you think it costs now? I mean, you already have detention centers out the wazoo. Every border patrol agent known to man. Plus we have states that are having to send their own police officers, their own National Guard. How much do you think all that costs?
Well, there's not really many detention centers, Magnolia.
The detention centers are already there.
There's not many of them.
Are already there. The border patrol agents are already on payroll.
So what I've seen on the southern border, most of the time there's border patrol processing centers that hold no more than a few hundred people. And at the time, during the Trump administration, they were creating temporary detention centers, temporary ones, right? Not, like facilities and everything like that. Now, they've built facilities to process these migrants under the Biden administration or took over emergency management sites and whatnot and had some, but they're not detention centers. Like, people could literally walk out if you wanted to. how they're going to have to legitimately build actual detention centers, like literally like prisons, which they don't have on the southern border at this time that I know of. That, you know, that's going to cost a lot. I mean, to
What
build
about the one? What about the one in Eagle Pass, Maverick?
well, that's a National Guard.
Massive,
That's a National Guard. That's a National Guard for their National Guard troops. That's their station for their National Guard troops. I don't believe that they bring migrants there and hold them there. I don't know if that they have that capability.
I thought we followed buses there.
No, that was the Emergency Management Center in Maverick County. Maverick County, which is just a small place where they just put some fencing around and they had these big giant white tents and cots that migrants would sit in cots. They're not cells. They're not like when we have detention centers, you got to think it's not going to be peaches and cream where migrants are going to be rounded up into like a tent where they have cots and accommodations. No, detention centers mean they would be put in actual cells, Magnolia, cells. They would have to actually build cells because, you know, these people could possibly escape. You're going to have some serious security. That's just my take on that. Again, I feel like it's more like a cost issue. Like, how much is this going to cost, Magnolia?
I don't know. Have they made any estimates?
I would say it's going to be over $100 billion. So it just will be interesting. I'm just saying in general, if you have a budget set for this, and the opposition, right? NGOs and the left or whoever wants to support illegal immigration, they might exploit that and try to take advantage of the limited budget to handle this, unless Congress gives them a blank check to have unlimited resources to stop illegal immigration. What I'm saying is, it will be interesting to see moving forward how this all works. Because if you're talking about the biggest deportation in mass in U.S. history, it's something that literally never happened before. And what is the cost of all this? That's my curiosity on this whole thing. How is this all going to be implemented?
With Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, whoever they designate to help with the effort.
Yeah, it will be interesting. But here's what you were talking about right here, Magnolia.
Well, the ICE agents will actually be doing their job for some of them for the first time. The job of ICE agents is to deport criminals and people that are on the deportation list.
But like, okay, so
they're already paid. They're already paid to do that.
Well, when you say deported, does that mean that every single migrant that called? And I'm just curious. I'm asking questions, and everyone in the chat can, come with your comment here. This is my curiosity here. Say you have a wave of 1,000 people that cross in. You're going to put 1,000 people, and then they're going to have to go in front of judges and get immediate deportation. Like, how does it even work? Like, how would this even work? That's what I'm just curious about.
They have interviews when they come into the country. They have interviews about their asylum claim. And currently, the way it's working, they're using the app and they're putting in the reason for their asylum claim. Those claims are not vetted right now, currently. Those people are admitted into the country and given a date. That's how it's working now. Then once they have their court date, which is however many years in advance, when they do that, that's when they're having an interview about their asylum claim, and that's when it's actually vetted. So Tom Homan has said that instead of that, they will, when they first come in under an asylum claim, they will have the full interview at that point to determine if the asylum claim is valid or not, instead of being released until 5-6 years later when they have the actual interview. So he's proposing that those interviews actually be done first thing so that you can weed them out right away.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So my take on that is, so people are coming in, they immediately go in front of some sort of asylum claim. Most likely they're going to say no, right? No. And then what? Just moved into a detention center and kicked out the next day? Or that same day?
Potentially.
Yeah. I'm fascinating to see how this is all going to work. Because I think we're seeing, like, I want to believe the Trump administration when they say this. Because this is what again, I believe it was the number one issue in the country that people voted Trump in for. So in order to implement it, and you're saying that this is going to be the biggest deportation in U.S. history, I'm just wondering at all angles, from the sanctuary cities to the ICE, how they're going to go into the jails, how they might go through neighborhoods and round people up, and also the border security. I just want to know how the wheels are going to work here all over.
Yeah, New York City New York City has made it official about they're shutting down the debit card program. That's kind of been discussed recently, but they made it official in the last couple of days, and they said that program is ending at the end of this year. So that's, I think, part of why you see this push coming, because they're trying to get in right before all that stuff ends. But, you know, if New York is basically closing up shop and they're saying, you know, we don't have money for you, that removes incentives for them to come in the first place. So we'll see if other cities do that as well. Some of these cities we've been hearing, they plan to just keep doing what they've been doing. But we'll see how long that can last. Because if they're not getting support from the federal government, I don't see how long that can last.
Yeah, and us being at the border, you know, with the gotaways, like you said, like it'll shift more towards gotaways. I mean, did we see wild stuff or what? Remember we were seeing people climb over the wall, the sleeper cells dressed in black, organized and stuff like, I mean, does that escalate to a whole big level? Because, you know, Magnolia, you know, we've been on that border in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, right? And it's just hundreds of miles of literally just desert with a wall, with no border patrol out there in sight.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting if those spots will be exploited and how Border Patrol will be able to prevent the gotaways from coming in. Because obviously they have the technology, and the cartels and the smugglers have that technology to know when Border Patrol is around. They use their ladders and they just scale that wall within seconds.
Yeah, it happens so fast.
So I just want to,
in the blink of an eye, they're up and over the wall, and they're running through the thing. And those agents, the Border Patrol agents out there, use ATVs. Which is pretty wild to see them deploy on their ATVs and go racing through the desert. And then they usually catch them if they're out there. So, but yeah, they do. It seems like the Border Patrol agents patrol very few and far between out there. And then like we saw, when there's fog or rain or something like that, that seems to be when they take that opportunity to try to come over, because you can't see them.
I want to shift something, and I want to get your opinion here, Magnolia. See, me and Magnolia, we ask each other questions. We're just talking on the fly, because I have a lot of questions, and she covers this, and she responds and everything like that. You know, covering the border, still a lot of unknowns in my mind about this, how this is all going to work. You know, I'm totally on board with mass deportations. I've made that no secret on this channel that the system can't sustain itself and we have a problem, right? But my curiosity is to see how you can actually fix this. And, you know, I have a lot of questions, you know, the cost and how this is all going to work. But let's talk. Remember the live we did yesterday, Magnolia, on the Denver mayor, Mr. Johnson. So Mr. Johnson, we talked about Mike Johnston.
Tough guy.
Yeah, Mr. Let me get his photo here if I can get it so we can
Mr. Tough Guy.
Mr. Tough Guy.
Tiananmen Square moment, he said.
Yeah, Mr. Tough Guy. Here's his photo right here. Give me 1 second. We did this video yesterday, Denver standoff, right? It seems like he's backpedaling now, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of outrage over what he said. I mean, he's just so extreme. Like, the things he was saying, he didn't even say it in like a normal way. He didn't even say like, oh, you know, we're going to protect all of our citizens and protect them and da da da. He didn't even say that. He was just like, oh yeah, we're going to like we're going to take all of our police officers and we're going to line them up along the county line, and we're going to have a standoff like the Tiananmen Square.
But see,
and everyone was like, what?
so we made a big video on him, but then yesterday in the evening time, he comes out and he speaks and he changes his tune. Now, I want to play this clip. Stay with me, Magnolia. This is the Denver mayor after receiving some backlash for his standoff Denverites comments that he made.
I want to just ask you very specifically, are you open to sending Denver police officers to the county line to stop federal forces or National Guardsmen from other states from coming into Denver?
We have no plan to do that. And we really hope that we don't ever have to do that. I think
No plan,
we
but
have
are you open to it?
What we're going to do right now is, it's hard to keep an eye on what the future president actually plans to do and what the proposal actually is.
It sounds to me like you're walking back the comments from a couple days ago saying that you would be willing to send Denver police officers. Do you regret making those comments and now getting questions like this?
Would I have taken it back if I could? Yes, I probably wouldn't have used that image because that's an image I hope we can avoid. What I was trying to say is this is an outcome I hope we can avoid in this country. I think none of us want that.
You talk about civil disobedience. You've mentioned that a couple of times now. Would you be willing to participate in those as the mayor of Denver? Would you be willing to go out and protest these things?
I would. If I believe that our residents are having their rights violated, if I think things are happening that are illegal or immoral or un-American in our city, I would certainly protest it. And I would expect other residents would do the same.
Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, has said that he is willing to arrest leaders like yourself for standing in the way of these policies that they want to enact. Would you be willing to go to jail for these things?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of that. And I'm also not seeking that. I think the goal is we want to be able to negotiate with reasonable people how to solve hard problems.
You would encourage people to protest?
I think we're going to look at every option. But yeah, I don't think that there are, I talked to some high school kids this week who were terrified about this. I don't think those kids are going to stand there and watch 3 of their classmates get pulled out of a history class with the 27 stand by and do nothing. I don't think that's what Denverites or Americans would do in this context at all.
What is your line where you say, yes, I support these deportations, and no, I don't support these other ones?
Yeah, I think our line is clear. We think if you are a violent criminal that is committing serious crimes like murder or rape in Denver, you should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law and you should be deported.
Change the tune here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He didn't even actually say he's gonna it's just a whole different tune than he was a couple days ago. We're gonna fight back and we're gonna stand up and block ICE from coming into our city, and Denverites ain't gonna have it, and there's gonna be 50,000 moms on the county border stopping this. And now it's like, I wish I could have took that back. It's not going to be like that. It's just not, and now even saying at the very end, yeah, we support deporting criminal migrants, just like the governor does of Colorado. Polis actually said on the record himself that he does support deportation of criminals, but notice he said, murder and rape. He didn't really say other crimes. So that would be interesting too. But he's wishy-washy. I think he's weak. He's folding under pressure. He's just, to me, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, he was just grandstanding. He was just fine. He thought he sounded cool. He thought he was going to be like all bold and everything. And I'm sure some of his advisors were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't be saying stuff like that. He probably got an earful from some advisors and figured he better say, yeah, we just hope we don't have to do that. We just hope it doesn't come to that. That's what he had to walk it back.
Do you think you saw our video yesterday?
Just to say the things that he said is honestly, it's just super disingenuous because we've been over this. They're not talking about deporting families who are genuinely seeking asylum and a better life. Those people they're not even being considered for deportation. So he's making it seem as if that's what Trump wants to do. And that's what a lot of these leaders, they're characterizing it as if, oh, they're just going to come and rip people out of their homes and we have to protect them. And that's not what it is. We're talking about gangs. We're talking about criminals, repeat offenders that commit crimes against children. Instead of letting them out of jail 7 and 8 times like a revolving door, those people are now going to be deported, like they always should have been.
Yeah, Magnolia, I asked the question. You think he watched our video yesterday morning? There's something tells me he did. Something tells me that it got back to him because suddenly now he went, and it's probably a combination of us and a couple other people that really put him on Front Street. It could be we could partially have been responsible for him, coming out on the record yesterday afternoon and backpedaling some of his craziness because we were just basically clowning the guy yesterday morning. With the ridiculousness, and he started getting roasted, and there were some others, using not necessarily mainstream media, but some YouTubers out there that have made some videos about him in the last 24 hours. And now suddenly he's coming out saying we're not going to do that. So that topic is over. No standoff in Denver. It doesn't look like at this point. Correct?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. But yeah, I mean, and he doesn't even make sense because he's already, It's already been made clear that Denver is buckling under the pressure of the migrant surge already. And they were caught on video telling migrants 6 months ago, we don't have resources anymore. You have to go to New York. You have to go to Chicago. So Denver is not really an option anymore for migrants. New York is not as attractive as it was because they're not getting the debit card. So, I guess these people that are in this last surge, they're taking their chances, and I don't know where they'll end up. I'm trying to think, like, if I was them, where would I go?
California.
I'd probably go to San Diego.
California.
Caravan, because it seems like, at least for the time being, California is going to just continue business as usual.
So they've
as for programs for migrants and things like that. So I'd probably go there if I was one of them. I probably wouldn't even attempt. I probably wouldn't even try to go to New York at this point. Denver, I wouldn't go there because they've already told the migrants. They're closing shelters. They don't have space for them. They don't have jobs for them. So Denver seems to be dried up. Where else do you have? Chicago. Chicago, the citizens have been very outspoken that they don't want these people here. So I think, probably California is where a lot of these last surge will probably end up.
So our border journalist Jeff from Cali, we've had him on the show last week reporting from Jacumba, California. He just posted this in the last 24 hours. So there is groups that are starting to come in at the southern border there in Jacumba, California, San Diego County, Southern California.
What country are you guys from? Colombia. Colombia? Oh, everyone? Okay. Colombia. Where are you going? New York? Florida? New Mexico?
Nueva Mexico?
California. So that's the thing we have to keep an eye out on, Magnolia, is the ones, and that was yesterday. That was Jacumba down there at the border wall. So they said they were from Colombia and they're going to California.
Yeah.
So that's something we have to pay attention to because I can't see at this point, again, like, we had a little conversation beforehand about the caravans coming up through Texas. But California seems like that would be a more welcoming destination without resistance.
Yeah, I mean, another way to look at this too is that, the Border Patrol agents over the last few years have been primarily, their job has been to be this welcoming committee. So a lot of the resources that would normally be used to deport people that have ICE detainers already, instead of doing that, they're actually welcoming people in. So now with the new administration and the new policies, those Border Patrol agents can get back to doing what their actual job is, not being the welcome committee and cutting wires to let people in. That's not what Border Patrol is intended to do. So I think a lot of it comes down honestly to priorities. And I think with the Biden administration, the priority was to bring in as many people as possible. And the Trump administration is going to have the opposite priority. So I don't think that it's going to take more, like a significant amount of more resources. I think that the current resources will go back to doing what their actual job description is. And a lot of the Border Patrol agents have been very low morale the last couple years. There's a lot of depression with them because they feel like they're not able to do their job. They don't feel good about what's been going on, and a lot of them have quit to the point that there's shortages. Even something so basic as working at a port of entry. Those that are, people that are coming in, commerce, visitors, things like that, people that are coming in that actually contribute to the economy and keep these cities running, they had to shut those down. They had to shut those ports of entry down.
Yes.
So they could go stand on the border and welcome in new migrants. So that kind of stuff that they've been having to do is demoralizing, and all of that's going to be flipped. And so I don't think that it's going to be, as far as money and cost and things like that, I think that it's just a matter of your priorities and where you put your resources.
Speaking of that, when you said that they had to shut off the port of entries, right? I'm just going to show you an example of that. Lukeville, Arizona. So Lukeville, Arizona was a hot spot where people would cross in, right? And I'm going to show it on the map here. This is the western part of the United States. So we're talking about a small port of entry called Lukeville, Arizona. Which is right here. It's a small community right here. There's only literally one road. It'd be Highway 85, right? And as you see the map, there's no roads in sight to the right or left, right? And people busted through the wall this time last year. Africans, thousands and thousands of Africans. It was so bad that they had to shut down the port of entry, where no one could come in. No one can come in. Regular Americans or regular legal people on both ends couldn't come back and forth. The port of entry was closed. The next port of entry is way down here in Nogales, right? So a lot of people from Phoenix, a lot of American citizens from Phoenix that have condos and summer homes and secondary homes along the coastline here, they couldn't even get down to their house because you couldn't even get in. That's the only port of entry. So they had to divert and go all the way down this way, hours and hours, 5-6 hours diverted to get to their home because the port of entries would be closed. It prevented commerce from coming through. It was that bad, Magnolia.
Yeah. And when they closed it down they closed it briefly in Eagle Pass, and it really had a terrible impact on the town there.
Yes.
We went to a lot of those businesses, and they were just really hurting because they weren't able to make sales and pay their bills, make rent. I mean, it really caused a lot of problems for local businesses in general.
Yeah, Eagle Pass, they shut down both, bridges. A lot of the commerce there are dealing with people that, cross over with legal documents and do shopping and whatnot. I mean, those businesses were shutting down and closed down. It was affecting the local downtown Eagle Pass because of this ridiculousness. And it was all because of Border Patrol, Border Patrol.
Because they had to have them down there by the river, welcoming in thousands of people with the buses going every 15 minutes. And they just didn't have the capacity to also cover the port of entry, which was insane. I mean, that's just wild that you have to cut off your own trade and commerce, and the local businesses and all these things were affected. And it has a really negative impact.
So there was an article last night, or a news report. I haven't really glimpsed this. TPS is probably going to get rid on top of the CBP app. It looks like TPS is gone too, right? On January 20th, they're going to get rid of TPS.
Well, what they're going to do is they're not going to just, if people are already here under TPS, they're not going to actively deport them, but they're just simply going to let TPS expire.
But look at this article, Magnolia.
The list of countries that are on there, they have different expiration dates for different countries, and depending on when the people came. Some of them, like some of the Haitian migrants in Springfield, for example, their TPS is good through 2026 as of right now. But so they're just basically going to let it expire.
But look at this article.
Because Biden was renewing TPS every 18 months. He was extending it and adding more countries to the list.
Fearing deportation, some Haitian migrants leaving Springfield, Ohio. So they're starting to leave, according to this report.
Yeah.
This was last night. This report came from CBS News last night, so I have to read this more to understand it and get into the things. But that's another thing is the people that are on TPS, if they fear that they're going to go, will they just disappear into the shadows and hide? Like, do you really think that the people that, whatever the CBP1 app or whatever, or even their court date, if they're told to come to a court date or their TPS is about to expire, do you think they would actually voluntarily surrender and turn themselves in to be deported? I don't think so.
Yeah, they probably, I'm sure they don't want to go through that. So if they know that their status is about to expire, they may seek out other options.
Yeah, and we're talking about a population of maybe 30,000 Haitian migrants in the Springfield, Ohio area. Where are they all going to go? If TPS ends or expires, or even in maybe the Trump administration will actually round up, before it actually expires and tells people they got to leave off TPS. You think these people are going to voluntarily surrender and okay, we're going back to Haiti? I don't think so, Magnolia. I think they're all going to hide. They're going to blend in the shadows, and they're going to try to disappear and go into other communities.
Yeah, they might.
So it's just that article is interesting because now I guess it's going to start spreading. So we're going to have to monitor that in Springfield, Ohio, dealing with the Haitian migrant issue there. We were there. That's somewhere we've been. Another thing I want to share, Magnolia, it's just these numerous articles that are coming out by the New York Post, and kudos to the New York Post for actually putting these articles out. This isn't just in the last day. Look at this story here. New York City migrant allegedly throws pal's beloved pit bull off 14th floor balcony and walks free. That's an article there. That's interesting. We'll have to look more into this story here. Here's another one. A legal migrant deported before standing trial in 125-mile drunken crash that kills 3. And prosecutors want him back. So now we're getting into the game where ICE will deport people before they can be prosecuted, instead of deporting people, that should be deported after committing the crime and being sentenced. So now we're just going to deport now before people get prosecuted. So this is something.
What's that?
I don't know. It's a news article that came out. I'll have to look in each one in each details. I'm just telling you that the headlines that are coming out in the last 24 hours about these cases with migrants. Look at this one. Venezuelan migrant charged with raping his boss's 14-year-old daughter while living in their Colorado home. Colorado. And then we got this. Venezuelan migrant with links to Tren de Aragua arrested in robbery of Manhattan prosecutor after she caught him doing that in her home.
Yeah, wasn't that the one Alvin Bragg's
staffer? Alvin Bragg's staffer. And he did a perp walk, and he's just sitting there smiling and laughing. It's crazy stuff. But that's what has been unleashed into this country. And, hearing the details with Laken Riley and I know some people might be saying in the chat, well, it's not all of them. It's not all of them. It's not. It's a lot. And no American citizen should be subjected to this. It shouldn't have happened if they weren't in the country.
Yeah, because a lot of the men from Venezuela came straight out of the prisons.
They came out of the prison.
I mean, that's just a fact.
This is the Alvin Bragg guy.
They literally came out of Venezuelan prison and came across the border into the United States.
Yeah, so this is this is crazy. This is crazy right here. He's just laughing and taunting the media and everything like that. But New York, you'll probably be let out. Maybe not, because he did something to a prosecutor, Alvin Bragg's prosecutor. I don't know. I don't know here. I mean, there's just so much examples of craziness. ICE in Massachusetts, 3 illegal immigrants in Massachusetts arrested, 2 charged with child rape, 1 convicted. One of them was convicted for the same crime in Brazil. So, it's one of those cases, kind of like Danilo Cavalcante, these other killers that, committed these crimes in other countries and then commit almost the same crime again when they hit the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, who are these people coming in? Here's another one. Honduran migrant accused of rape was arrested for sex crimes, released multiple times. Heard in Virginia. This just coming out in the last 24 hours. We're not talking about old news. These cases that I've been reading here are within the last 24 to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It just keeps happening, and it's all over the country.
We're gonna keep seeing more and more of this. I mean, we had millions of people coming in, so as time goes by, we'll see more and more of it.
Bill Malusian put out a something about a Brazilian committing crimes in Buffalo. And the ICE is calling out the New York governor. Regardless of what the governor of New York says, we will not be deterred by politicians putting votes over protecting the citizens of this nation.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. They're talking about a case up in Buffalo about strangulation of a child by a Brazilian migrant. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, this is some crazy stuff, folks. And this is just in the last 48 hours, 24, 48 hours, not old news. Just these things just keep popping up. Every single day, we see something dealing with a horrendous crime committed by a migrant.
Yep, every day.
Like a bad crime. And when's it going to end?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's what people are seeing. That's what Americans have been seeing, and we're seeing it more and more, and that's why the majority of Americans support mass deportations at this point, because this is happening, and everyone is seeing it right in front of their eyes.
I'm just curious if they support mass deportations when it comes to mothers and children. I get it 100%. If you don't support criminals being deported or migrants.
Who said they were going to deport mothers and children?
Exactly. We don't know. Exactly.
Why
we don't
are you
know.
Even asking that question?
Well, we don't know because there has been some
said.
anchor baby type policies that they have been throwing out there that they're going to do. I'm just wondering, what's after you do the criminals, and I think number one priority is the criminals. They're saying about 700,000 already have orders to be deported and they're out there hiding. So you round up all the criminals, all the violent criminals, you deport them. What's next? What's next after that? I think the criminals in the city, sanctuary cities, are the priority. But then what's next?
Yeah.
Because my opinion is I think everyone that crossed into the southern border openly since 2021 should be looked at and vetted. Every single person. From 21 on. I don't care if it's a woman, child, male, female, grandpa, grandma, every single person that crossed into the border, the way they crossed in, the way we seen them cross in, that process since 2021 should be extensively looked at and seen. What are you doing in America today? If you came into 2021 through that way and you're somewhere in a city, what are you doing right now? And how have you behaved since you've been here?
Mm-hmm.
Now, will they do that? I don't know. What do you think? Do you feel like that, children will be taken away?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. And that's what I'm just wondering. Where does it go after the criminals?
Well, I haven't heard anything about children and mothers being deported. So,
Well, I heard.
I haven't heard anyone say that.
But again, Magnolia, my mind is thinking the system has been exploited. Pregnant women specifically coming to the border, 9 months pregnant, knowing that, hey, they give birth 1 month later, the child can just stay in America.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of abusing the system. It's like circumventing it. It's like finding a loophole. So it will be interesting. Will they do it?
But it is the policy, though. So, I don't know how you can accuse them of exploiting a system that is a system. The policy in the United States for decades is if a baby is born in this country, they're automatically a citizen. That's the policy. So exploiting or not exploiting, I think that's irrelevant. It's the policy.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
It's not as if this woman who's coming across the border that's pregnant from Mexico, the fact that she comes over pregnant and has the baby and the baby becomes an American citizen, that is the current policy under our immigration laws. So if they want to end that, that's a whole other discussion, because that's going to cause, like we said, that'll probably be the most controversial change in our immigration laws that I've heard so far in their plans. So if you want to end that, then end it. But as it is now, that is the policy.
See, what my mind is thinking is the NGO, the American Red Cross type maps that we found and saw and witnessed, and the directions on how to guide people to come across, what these people should actually say to Border Patrol agents in order to stay, is like a manual. And I feel that once these policies get changed in 2020, and if there's any wiggle room for, giving exemptions for people to cross over, that these NGOs will take advantage of that and try to, incite the people to follow this method in order to at least stay temporarily in the United States. I'm sure there's going to be some exemptions. I really do feel that there'll be some ways, and then those exemptions will be exploited.
Yeah.
I really do. So it remains to be seen. There's a couple other things I want to share on some clips. Anything else you would like to add, Magnolia?
No, not for now.
All right. Thanks for the insight, Magnolia.
All right.
Thank you. All right. So we're talking about Caravan is coming. We're going back to the Caravan coming because I know some people have been coming in wondering what in the world is going on at the southern border, and they're saying that a caravan is coming, and or caravans are coming. What can Mexico do on their end to prevent these caravans or people from reaching the southern border? Do you think Mexico, the Mexican president, should do something and stop their sanctuary cities? Like you heard the previous journalist saying, Mexico City is used as a sanctuary city and as a springboard to get from Mexico City up to the southern border. That's definitely a possibility too. There is another clip I just want to share and bring awareness, because that's what we do on JLR Investigates. We bring awareness to these situations. I'm going to get this clip right here. This is also, oh, by the way, well, I was going to play Stephen Miller, but I'm not necessarily worried about Stephen Miller right now. Here's another one with the Caravan. They say 1,500 migrants. 1,500. Now, 1,500 is a drop in the bucket compared to the millions that cross, but 1,500 is 1,500. And sometimes the 1,500 turns into 2,000. Sometimes it dwindles down to a few hundred. But, you know, people are coming. People are coming.
A new caravan of 1,500 migrants has just formed in southern Mexico. National Border Patrol Council Vice President Art Del Cueto joins me now. Art, is this just more evidence of the race to get here before Trump takes office?
Absolutely. Look, the cartels, as we've said many times, they're the ones that control the border. They're trying to get as many individuals across in the U.S. right now and as much drugs as they can at the same time so they can make their money because they know, hey, you know, rough times are ahead for them. But what you're going to see is when you're seeing these big groups and big caravans that come across, you got to remember, they're not all going to cross at one spot. What they do is the cartels will break them up, and it depends on what areas they want to focus on, what areas they want to distract agents from. That's where they're going to start sending smaller groups because they know that distraction can cause agents and other law enforcement to go to that area so they can continue bringing other products in other areas in that same spot.
I know Border Patrol morale has been up since Trump was elected, but they're staring in the face of all these caravans forming. Are Border Patrol agents prepared for what's going to happen over the next 2 months?
So it comes down to the leadership of the agency, not so much the agents. Look, the agents are out there having to do what they can do, but it falls on the leadership. They're the ones that do the operations. They tell you where to focus on and where not. And unfortunately, what we've seen the last 4 years is a lot of knee-jerk reaction from some of the leadership where they're not prepared because they don't have the proper tools. They have agents, you know, spread in other areas because of the current administration. But you know what? Look. Hope is on the way. That's what it comes down to. That's what makes the difference. So yes, we know that there's groups coming across. We know it's going to get hard, but you know what? We have that glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel when President Trump comes back.
You know, you talked about tools just a second ago. I want to ask you about this. The New York Post reports the Biden administration is quietly loosening its immigration policies. They're rolling out a new ICE app in New York City, which allows migrants to bypass in-person check-ins. Our Mark Meredith questioned the White House about this. Listen.
I don't have any policies, new policies to speak to at this time. I just don't have anything. I would refer to DHS for any specifics on that particular question. But if you're asking us if we are doing any policy changes, and encounters have dropped more than 55%, and they're lower than they were even 4 years ago. And so that is what we're going to continue to do. We're going to continue to enforce our laws. That's going to be our focus.
I mean, if we get these kind of looser policies or looser tools, what effect is that going to have on what the Trump administration has to deal with at the border?
So it's obvious what this administration continues to do. They got less than 60 days left, and they're determined to hand over the biggest dumpster fire that they can hand over to another administration. That's what it comes down to. But you know what? They can try all they can. But we know that the leadership that has been established is going to get the job done. And as I said earlier, hope is on the way.
Well, we've got 2 months before that hope gets here, and it sounds like there's a lot of shenanigans that might happen in the meantime. We will see. Art Del Cueto, always good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Kind of shenanigans is being played here, folks. They're trying to loosen it like this last 60 days, because we got less than 60 days. Are they trying to, allow people to get in there quicker and easier as a last wave? But why? Just why? Why would they even want to do that? Why would they even want to do that? It just makes no sense. But there's no secret, folks, that a caravan is out there. I do want to play a clip here. I want to take you back to this guy here because I got a clip of him being arrested. And it's just this case is kind of like, oh, the hypocrisy. Migrants are at Sanctuary City in New York City, and this guy here breaks into the prosecutor Alvin Bragg's assistant's office and does the unthinkable. I mean, this is pretty a wild story here. But I do want to share his perp walk and just how, he's flaunting and they're laughing and everything like that. And that's another thing too is, when me and Magnolia have been down on the border seeing these people get arrested, the gotaways and everything like that. Once they get in handcuffs and once they get, put in handcuffs, they sit there and smile and laugh and smirk. And it just doesn't sit right with me when these people smirk and laugh and think it's a joke and think it's funny and funny games and everything like that. These people, as people said, they have nothing to lose if they're from like crazy countries and everything like that. So they can do 6 months, sitting on their head in a detention center. It doesn't bother them whatsoever. And they just have no empathy, disregard for human life. It's just sick. It's sad. It's sad. And it's always these type of egregious crimes when it comes to sex and child stuff, you know? I think of Laken Riley. I think of Rachel Morin. I think of Jocelyn Nungaray. There's just so many of them. And it's sick. It's just pure evil. But look at this guy. He's just flaunting. This guy got arrested in a Venezuelan migrant.
Smiling, Brandon Somoza being led out of the Midtown South Precinct on West 35th Street this morning. Police say at about 2 a.m. Sunday, he robbed a 38-year-old woman in the hallway of her Hell's Kitchen apartment building. He allegedly grabbed her purse, cell phone, and bank cards and also performed a lewd act. The victim is a Manhattan assistant DA. She was not injured. Police traced her stolen cell phone to a hotel on West 45th Street, which led them to believe the suspect is a migrant, and they were able to track him down. Somoza was arrested just last night. Police say he was using drugs on the street and had stolen items with him. Police believe he is part of Tren de Aragua. That's the Venezuelan gang that has preyed on people in Times Square and Central Park. Somoza is facing a number of counts, including sexually motivated robbery and burglary. He also has 6 prior arrests, all from this year on similar crimes, and he's believed to have arrived in the U.S. in February of 2023. In Lower Manhattan, Lauren Glassberg, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
See what I'm saying? It's scary. It's scary. And these people's true colors, he arrived February last year. It's just sick. Think it's funny, think it's games, stole her stuff. It got traced back to a migrant hotel in New York City. It's just wild. He shouldn't have even been on the streets. How is somebody going to cross in the United States illegally and be arrested multiple times and still be out on the street to do this? And oh, the irony. He went back to, committing this crime at the district attorney's apartment. Wake up. Wake up. Speaking of waking up, we had a great morning, folks. I hope you're waking up, and I appreciate you waking up to JLR Investigates, having a cup of coffee, talking about the migrant crisis and the caravan that comes up. We usually do lives every day on this type of topic and showing you the latest of what's going on, and we will continue to do that. And I am so curious of what's going to happen on January 20th on. I just want to know about everything. So this is a topic that I totally invested in. And I want to see, some change here as a gonzo journalist reporting it and also having my take on this and my feelings on this. I'm totally in 100% support of mass deportations. I make that perfectly clear, and we'll see what happens moving forward. We'll also see what happens up to January 20th. Because it's going to be interesting, will more waves come through? Will there be more arrests? Will there be crazy crime out there with these people? We'll expose it all. We'll continue to talk about this. And if any politicians defy, what's going on or speak out and everything like that, you will hear it here on JLR Investigates. Thanks for watching, folks. We cover the border 24/7, 365 on JLR Investigates. Have a good morning. Be safe. Stay vigilant out there. I think change is coming. Have a good day. We'll talk soon.